What was the contrast between running Madison Square Garden and then coming to the Philadelphia 76ers?
It's a little bit different. I mean, it's definitely, we don't control or run the arena. We're tenants with Comcast Spectacor down there at the Wells Fargo Arena. So not having the building is quite a change. It's a smaller business, a simpler business. The media is definitely, I guess, more engaged. It's a smaller media market. But man, oh man, those fans get after it. It's a fun city to be a part of a sports organization in.
Going back to when I was a kid, and the Sixers had those great teams with Dr. J, and then they kind of went on a slide in recent years. Did you feel, in terms of building up the sponsorship base and the season ticket base, that you sort of had to rebuild the image of the brand?
Sure. I mean, I think sports, all in all, are very cyclical. So you can go back to the great Dr. J, Moses Malone, Mo Cheek, Andrew Toney era, and then you go into kind of Barkley, kind of little mini up. Then you went down again. Then you go into the Iverson run, which was terrific, where we made a finals appearance. And then it's been down for about 10 years or so. So it's definitely kind of understanding the cyclical nature of sports and understanding that, like we do, the mentality of the Philadelphia fan. The great news is it's a really smart sports city. So fans understand what a rebuild looks like. They understand what it takes to create a championship contending team. And they've been a really passionate, patient group, which they're not known for.
What did you have to do when you first got there to connect this message with the fans and the corporate sponsors of the team to say, look, we have a long-term project here to make this, once again, one of the best teams in the NBA?
Sure, we've had a pretty crazy amount of success on the business side, given what we've done with our team. So the first thing I did, anybody would do when you walk into an organization, is you ask a lot of questions and you listen. And the second thing that most people do, and I certainly did, was went out and recruited some world-class talent to supplement the group that was already there. And then we started building. We had a great kind of session early on in my time there to try to figure out. We had just traded Drew Holiday, who was our all-star point guard, for a guy that wasn't going to play for a year, Nerlens Noel. And we somewhat decimated the roster over the previous 2 years. So there wasn't much for fans to get excited about. And kind of we sat around trying to figure out, okay, what is the message, and who are we? And the one thing about Philadelphia, which is very similar to New York, is you have to be very transparent and you have to be very honest. And so we kind of come up with this concept of together we build. And that was the first kind of anchor in us saying to the market, we know who we are. We know what world class looks like. We know what it takes to build a championship team. We know we're not there yet, but come for the ride with us. It's going to be a roller coaster. There are going to be some ups and downs, and we're going to spin you upside down a couple times and maybe even go backwards. At the end of the day, we know exactly where we're going. Stay with us, and this will be fun.
When you got there, and still to this day, the team has what I would term a very undervalued local TV deal. It was signed long before the big increase in media rights fees. Were you trying to set something up where you said, you know what, we know we're going to have a new TV contract, down the road in a few years. Mm-hmm. Let's keep the salaries low now. We'll get cap space and then time it to a point where when we get this local TV money, that'll help us sign these players who we're drafting now who hopefully be stars?
Well, there's definitely a run where you see the age of the top stars in the league and when they're going to peak and where they are and how we can build a team. And our TV deal fortunately had an automatic reset in, which kicks in next year automatically, which is terrific. But the focus really for Sam Hinkie, who runs our basketball, was about how you build this the right way. There are 3 ways you build a team, as we all know. It's like through the draft, through free agency, and through trades. And if you look at the great teams in the league today, they all built very differently. Miami was through free agency and the draft. You look at San Antonio, built primarily through the draft and late draft picks, and a number 1 overall in Tim Duncan. And you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder through the draft, right? And then some free agent acquisitions. But the draft, given the current CBA, is a key way to build a foundation. That's the best way and the most efficient way to get stars over time.
It's been a little risky with the draft. I mean, you've taken some chances. The players you've signed the last 2 years, your first picks have been injured. Mm-hmm. So clearly there's a long-term perspective there. Has that been something that you've been able to communicate with the fans and the sponsorship community and say, hey, look, these guys are a little risky, but once they get better, they're really going to help us?
Sure. Well, I mean, the amazing thing about the business community is we've done the 3 largest sponsorship deals in the history of the franchise in the last 10 months, which is almost ridiculous to think about. A team that loses 26 games in a row, finishes with the second worst record in the league, and struggles the way win 19 games, and struggles the way we did, to do those kind of deals. Clearly, the business community understands what we're doing and the plan we've put in place. And I'd say the same thing for the fans.
How have you been able to maintain the season ticket base for the 76ers, the fact that, they are going through a rebuilding process?
Right. So right now we're in the top 10 in the NBA in renewal percentage in terms of our season ticket holders coming back, which is terrific. And we're in the top 5 in new sales. So if you think about that, it's pretty unbelievable to think about, given a team that won 19 games is having this much success. And I'd love to say we are the best sales staff in the world. I can't say we're the biggest. It's a large staff down there. We got almost 90 sellers, kids selling tickets, whereas most staffs are about 30, 25 to 30. So we definitely have a bigger staff than most. But I can tell you, like, this market, this market in Philadelphia, they absolutely get it. They understand the message. They understand this team. They understand the direction. They want to be part of the ride. Like, you get a chance to see, Nerlens Noel. You asked me before, like, how do you take a guy who's going to be injured for a year? Well, we have really patient owners and a very smart GM, which is terrific. But for us, it's like, now you get to see a kid that would have been the #1 overall pick. You get to see him play. There's interesting excitement around that. And next year, you're going to see Embiid, who would have been the #1 overall pick. What an unbelievable opportunity to have a chance to get a #1 overall guys, right? It's incredible. And so our fans get it.
When you came to the 76ers, that Josh Harris was interested in buying a hockey team?
I mean, not specifically a hockey team. One of the things I met with he and David Blitzer almost a dozen times through the interview process. And the one thing I kept saying was, are you going to be bored? I said, bored? I'm going back to Philadelphia, which I love, to run an NBA basketball team, which is every kid's dream, okay, and certainly one of mine. And I can't wait to get started. And they said, but it's not Madison Square Garden. I said, but it's the Sixers. And it's this incredible brand in this great city, and it's a turnaround, which I love. And they said, but don't worry. We're active. We're young guys. We have an appetite for growth. And I said, all right, well, when you're ready to go, I'm ready to go. So that's how it started. And they said, just be patient. And the patience lasted about 3 weeks until they bought the Prudential Center of the Devils.
What was your reaction when they told you that?
I was thrilled. I love deals. I love action. I feel like, you can pinch yourself sometimes. And without sounding like a little kid, it's like, we have these magical jobs, and I get to watch games for a living. And while there is stress and there's pressure and there's a lot of hours and a lot of events, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Did you have to alter your business strategy at all once Josh and David bought the Devils, in terms of now you had 2 teams that you could market and promote?
Sure. Well, I mean, just in terms of like the where I spend my time and where I prioritize my time, and how we set up here, and then resetting in terms of just the actual turnpike trauma that I deal with every day.
I remember there was a lot of angst that I read about Philly fans versus New Jersey Devil fans. How can one owner, own 2 teams? You have all this turnpike angst. Was there a lot of that felt in the organization?
Not too much. I mean, I get beaten up a little bit in the Philadelphia media every time I go on for, how are the Devils doing? When we got knocked out of the playoffs, I took quite a bit of ribbing. I don't go to the Devils games when they play in Philadelphia. I'm not that dumb, okay? This is not my first rodeo. So, but other than that, I have a lot of friends at the Flyers organization, and it's such a small business that we all kind of root for each other. We know how tough it is.
Can this team, the Devils, in this building, because it's tough, you don't have an NBA team here, can it make a profit, including the non-NHL events, without going, say, 2 rounds in the playoffs?
Yes. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do to get there. But this is an incredible building. We're spending a lot of time bringing in shows and concerts. We're up about 20% over last year already in terms of what we've been able to book. So success is going to come.